Occupy Atlanta is celebrating a huge win. The group succeeded in preventing hundreds of AT&T employees from losing their jobs. Last December, the telecom giant said it planned to lay off 740 workers in the eastern region. In reaction, hundreds of community members took part in rallies, sit-ins, and spent over 40 nights outside the corporate offices in Atlanta. AT&T says it will keep 255 positions intact. Protesters say people of color are underrepresented at the University of California at Berkeley. While minority students make up half of the state's high school graduates, they account for just 18% of UC Berkeley's freshman class. That's why 20 activists occupied a building at the university, demanding an end to what they say is discrimination. University and high school students, as well as community supporters, joined the demonstration. Not everyone wants to listen to New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg speak at a commencement ceremony, at least not all students at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. A group of graduates are organizing an alternative commencement ceremony after university administrators ignored their petition to have Bloomberg replaced as the commencement speaker. The students began circulating the petition last December. They say they didn't like Bloomberg's treatment of Occupy Wall Street protesters and journalists during that group's eviction last fall. And good news for West Virginia retirees. Some of Occupy's oldest protesters are getting their retirement benefits back. Several months ago, we reported how metal manufacturer Century Aluminum dropped health coverage for over 500 retirees and their families. Former workers created the group Occupy Century Aluminum and set up a protest camp outside the closed factory. The retirees, some in their 70s and 80s, stood their ground and braved the elements for months, despite health issues. As part of the settlement, workers will now get the health coverage they were promised. April 9th marked the first day of spring training. An outfit called the 99% Spring aims to train 100,000 people across the country in nonviolent action. They are preparing for more protests focusing on inequality and student loan debt. Planners hope that 50,000 people will undergo the boot camp in person, while another 50,000 will learn about protesting techniques online. The 99% Spring is made up of progressive organizations that share common goals with the Occupy movement. And the Easter weekend saw the resurrection of the Occupy movement in Chicago, where protesters gathered for a number of festivities throughout the day to celebrate the beginning of the Chicago Spring. Check it out.
Occupy Chicago kicked off its spring initiative with a big day of action that spanned 13 neighborhoods and even infiltrated the suburbs. The Freedom Festival marked the beginning of several direct actions planned for May. Protesters drew attention to issues like foreclosures and inequality, though activists also spoke out against a so-called American genocide, which they say is the suppression of minorities through governmental policies. Occupy Chicago is gearing up for major protests during the NATO conference, slated to take place in the Windy City in May. The group planned on protesting the G8 conference, but its location was changed from Chicago to Camp David. Occupy Chicago saw this policy change as a victory, since the planned protest affected U.S. government agenda. Activists say they are excited about the number of participants in the inaugural event. They expect the number to double by May Day. For Occupy the Media, this is Caroline Briggs.